I don't know where you guys go for vacation. I grew up in the United States, and I always vacation on the East Coast at the ocean. And so every single year for 28 years now, my wife and I take our kids. We have 5 kids and now some grandkids. And so we all meet there for a beach vacation. And one of the things I'm very grateful for is at the beach, there's lifeguards that are there. And for all of those years, I've always gone to the lifeguards and talked to them privately, one-on-one. My youngest son, who's now 23, suffers from seizures. And so it's dangerous for him to go in the water. So I'll always ask the lifeguards if they wouldn't mind just keeping an eye on him. And they're always good about that. And the lifeguards, you know lifeguards, they're very careful with people. When they see problems, they'll go ahead and blow their whistle. They're aware of the ocean, the tides, the depth. And when they see somebody going out a little bit too deep, it can be dangerous, and they can signal them back in. And if you've ever seen somebody struggle in the water, it's scary. You know, they go over their head and they're fighting against the rip current or the tide, and it's hard to get back in. You know, it's kind of like ministry sometimes for me. Sometimes that's what it's like for you as well in ministry. It's easy to feel over our heads. It's easy to feel like we're swimming against the current, maybe of our culture, or the current of our church culture, or the current of certain people in our church. And sometimes we feel like we're being sucked deeper and deeper into problems. And we don't know what we're supposed to do, and maybe even some panic sets in. And sadly, a lot of people drown. They drown in real life. As a matter of fact, a recent study in Europe shows that 23,000 people drowned in Europe in 2021. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. I don't want to go under in ministry. I don't want to drown in ministry. I don't want you guys to sink or drown in ministry as well. And I recently had 3 friends leave the ministry for different reasons. I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want that to happen to me. So what we need to do is we need to recognize some dangers, okay? And listen to our lifeguards when they're blowing the whistle, when there's some danger signs. And we need to learn how to improve our swimming techniques, our ministry techniques, so that we can swim more effectively when it comes to ministry. So I want you to turn, if you have your Bibles, to a familiar passage. It's Exodus chapter 18. It's a familiar passage, and it's a very important passage. And this is 10 absolutely essential lessons to rise to the next level of leadership. And this is help for those overwhelmed in ministry. And so what we have here is we have a man who is exhausted in ministry. He's struggling in ministry. He's sinking in ministry instead of swimming in ministry. And he's kind of caught in this undertow, this rip current of ministry, and he's being sucked out further and further, and he doesn't even realize it. And at first glance, when you look at Moses, he seems like this incredibly strong swimmer. And I want you to notice, even the strongest of people in ministry can drown in ministry. Moses was as good as they came, as strong as they came, and he still struggled in ministry. So whether you've been in ministry for 50 years, or this is your first year in ministry, whether you're brand new or you're well-seasoned, whether you've been in an established church or ministry that's 150 years old, or whether you're in a brand new church plant or parachurch ministry, we all need these lessons. Whether you're a lead pastor or an associate pastor or parachurch again, doesn't matter your position, doesn't matter your age. We are all prone to drowning in ministry, to sinking in ministry. And so these are lessons for all of us. And I want you to read along with me as I start in Exodus 18, starting in verse 13. The next day Moses sat down to judge the people. And they stood around Moses from morning until evening. When Moses' father-in-law saw everything he was doing for them, he asked, "What is this that you're doing for the people? Why are you alone sitting as judge while all the people stand around you from morning until evening?" Moses replied to his father-in-law, "Because the people come to me to inquire of God. Whenever they have a dispute, it comes to me, and I make a decision between one man and another, and I teach them from God's statutes and laws." "What you're doing is not good," Moses' father-in-law said to him. "You will certainly wear out both yourself and these people who are with you because the task is too heavy for you. You can't do it alone." Well, we're going to start is we're going to see some internal changes that need to take place. some attitudes that need to take place in my life and your life, and obviously needed to take place in Moses' life. Because until the internal changes take place, nothing's going to change on the outside, external changes. So what are some of these absolute essential lessons for leadership? Here's the first one. Listen to outside objective opinions. And by the way, that's why I'm glad you're here today. That's why I'm glad you're here at ELF. It shows that you and I are willing to listen to other people's opinions and learn from one another. And so I call this the power of the triple O, outside objective opinions. And so we need to listen to the lifeguards when they blow the whistle in our lives and say, hey, you're sinking. Hey, I think you could be doing this better. Why listen? Because fresh perspectives can be life-changing. They can be life-changing for our churches. A fresh perspective can be life-changing for our ministry. A fresh perspective from someone can be life-changing for your marriage and my marriage. It can be life-changing for our families, for our lives. There's nothing better than a new set of eyes seeing how things are going on, and a viewpoint, advice, and insight. It's kind of like if you were to visit a store for the first time, or a church, or if you were to visit a restaurant for the first time, you see things because you walk in with fresh eyes and you're like, why are they doing it that way? There's such a better way to do it. Maybe this is your first year at ELF, and you walk into this hotel and you're like, well, why did they do it that way? Or you think through the format of ELF, and I think they could be doing that better this way. Fresh eyes are important. You can see weaknesses, you can see improvements for ministries, facilities, organization. But I want you to notice something about Jethro and his advice to his son-in-law Moses. It was unsolicited. It wasn't asked for. This was Moses never hired Jethro Consultant Incorporated. Jethro just gave him this advice freely, okay? He wasn't given, and it wasn't given to criticize him. It was given in love, with sincerity and help. It reminds me of Proverbs 27. The wounds of a friend are trustworthy. And in this case, the wounds of a father-in-law. So listen when people share improvements. When they want to talk to you about how you can improve your leadership, how you can improve your preaching, how you can improve your decision-making. And what I need to do and what you need to do is guard against being defensive. It's easy for us to get defensive and not want to listen to people. And that pride just kicks in my own life, or selfishness in our lives. And we got to understand we don't know it all, even when we think we know it all. And sometimes the longer we're in a ministry or the longer we're in a position, we think we've got it all figured out. And it's harder to listen to people. Think about Moses. I mean, he's been a leader for a long time, decades. And all of a sudden his father-in-law comes out of the blue, visiting him and says, hey, you're not doing it right. This is a hard pill, so to speak, to swallow. Now, fresh perspectives can be life-changing. We all have blind spots. You know what a blind spot is in your car. You're getting ready to turn over into the next lane, unless you have a blind spot detector, and all of a sudden you hear somebody honking behind you because you couldn't see them in your mirror. I want you to understand, Moses has a blind spot, and so do you, and so do I. Sometimes we don't even know what they are. And we can be swerving into other ministry lanes that we need to stay out of. We can be running into volunteers in our churches or ministries, running into fellow staff people. And we don't even realize it. And that's how accidents are caused in churches. And people are hurt and frustrated. That's how accidents and frustration happens in marriages. Because all of a sudden we veer into our husband or wife's lane. And we got to be careful of that. And we hurt feelings. Stay in your ministry lane. Know what your ministry lane is and is not. You don't have to have your hands over everybody else's ministry. If you do, we can tend toward recklessness and being insensitive to those people we work with who serve alongside of us. Now, what's crazy is Moses never noticed a problem. He was completely unaware of this. This was his blind spot. Look at verse 13. He sits down to judge the people. They stand around Moses for how long? From morning until evening. The same is true for some of us today. We have problems in our ministries, things that need to be improved in our ministries that we don't even know about. And sometimes it's not necessarily a person in our church, because sometimes we think, oh, I know who the problem is. The problem may be us. The problem may be me. The problem may be you. You may not be doing it the best way it could be done, how God thinks it should be done. Moses went to work as usual, sits down to judge the people. They stand around Moses, verse 13, from morning until evening. He is working all day long, every day, working hard, grinding it out, busy every single day. He didn't have time to think. He didn't have time to strategize a better way to doing it. He just had to get things done now. He's putting out fires, so to speak. Putting out problems is what he's doing, okay? He's sitting all day. The people are standing all day. I don't know in Europe what you call it. We have in America called the DMV, Department of Motorized Vehicles, which is a horrible run government organization where you go to renew your license. All right, it's very inefficient and slow. In Poland or in Europe, you may go to your city hall or office, a district office, take a number, sit and wait and wait and wait. And usually there's just one guy at the counter or one lady at the counter, and it's probably this guy, okay? Flash from Zootropolis or Zoomania or Zootopia, whichever it was in your country. Ministry under Moses is slow. Slow as a sloth, and frustrating because he's inefficient is what he is. And I want you to notice something very important here. God never spoke to Moses about this. Think about this. God never told Moses how to work differently, how to work better. Now, God gave Moses a lot of instructions. How about the 10 Commandments? But he didn't tell him how to do this. How about God spoke to him in the burning bush? How about God spoke to him in the tent of meeting? See, there are some things God lets us figure out in life by other people. But we have to be humble enough to listen to other people. There are some things in your life and your ministry that God wants you to listen to other people, to swallow your pride, to be humble, and to listen with both ears open. And say, okay, maybe God is using this person in my life, giving me an outside, objective opinion. How I could be a better wife. How I could be a better husband. How I could be a better father, a better parent, a better mother. How I could be a better leader in the organization, a better pastor, a better volunteer. God will use people in your life to speak to you. Make sure you're listening to them humbly. So fresh perspective can be life-changing. We all have blind spots. Here's another thing. We've got to get out of our ministry ruts and listen to wisdom. So verse 14, Moses' father-in-law saw everything. Sometimes we do things a long time in a very less productive way. And what is a rut? Well, if you're stuck in a rut, it's basically this. It's a muddy dirt road that hardens. I don't know what you call it in your language. But that is a rut. You get stuck in this rut and you can't get your car out of it. And sometimes in ministry and life, we get stuck in these ruts and we just cannot get out of it. And sometimes we just need to listen to wisdom, the wisdom of a coworker or volunteer, the wisdom of a friend or family member, the wisdom of a mom or dad, the wisdom of a parent or child. Dare I say the wisdom of our own wives or husbands? We need to listen to others. And Jethro has a deeper concern. Not just for Moses as a leader. What is Jethro's deeper concern? Moses is his son-in-law. Moses is married to his daughter. Moses' kids are Jethro's grandkids. He knows the way Moses is working is not just negatively impacting the people, it's negatively impacting his family. All day long, every single day, day after day after day. The way we minister, the way we pastor, the way we serve doesn't just affect us. It also affects the people around us. It can affect our husbands, our wives, our children. And when ministry is negatively impacting your family or your marriage, something has to change. When ministry is negatively impacting your family, your marriage, your children, something has to change. You're in a ministry rut that you need to get out of. Listen, I've been a pastor 28 years. There are a lot of things I wish I could go back and do differently. I was in a ministry rut for many years. I was doing 5 preps a week. I was preparing Sunday morning message, Sunday evening message, Wednesday night message, a men's Bible study, and a Sunday school lesson. That's a lot of preps every week for year after year after year. I was in a church, pastoring a church as a young man. That's just how they did it. So I went into ministry thinking that's just how everybody did it. And it was hard on my family. The wake-up call came when my little daughter at the time said, "Daddy, can you please ask the church if you can come home?" Knife to the heart. And so I had to start thinking, man, I don't want to lose my marriage. I don't want to lose my children. What do I need to do differently? And maybe some of you here are doing some things that are negatively impacting your family. I want to stretch you. I want to challenge you as an outside objective opinion to go before the Lord and think through what you can change. And don't just think about changing, make the change. Here's some words of wisdom for the workaholics among us. Ecclesiastes 4. Better 1 handful of rest than 2 handfuls with effort in the pursuit of wind. Psalm 127. In vain you get up early and stay up late, working hard to have enough food. Yes, he gives sleep to the one he loves. God can take care of it. He can take care of it. Fresh perspectives can be life-changing. We all have blind spots. Get out of your ministry ruts. Listen to wisdom. Here's the next one. Listen to what and why questions. Listen to what and why questions. Look at verse 14. Jethro, what is this you're doing for the people? Why are you alone sitting as judge while all the people stand around you from morning to night? So what are you doing? What are you doing right now in your ministry? What are you doing? Whether it's in a church or an organization, what are you doing? And why are you doing it that way? Honestly. Why are you working all alone? Why are people standing around you all day long? Why are you doing it that way? And because I've always done it this way is the wrong answer. That's not the right answer. See, the what and the why can be very revealing. Very revealing. You may be doing a good work, but doing a good work in a bad way. It's kind of like the old adage, the old illustration of the woodsman, the guy who's going out in the woods to chop down trees. He was asked the question, what would you do if you had 5 minutes to chop down that big tree? What would you do to chop down that tree if you had 5 minutes? The answer, I'd spend the first 2.5 minutes sharpening the axe. What axe do you need to sharpen? How can you be more effective in your leadership? What needs to change? Work smarter, not harder. There's too many leaders, too many pastors chopping down trees with dull axes, wasting so much time, so much effort, swinging away, busy day after day after day. We need to stop and think, what am I doing? Why am I doing it this way? What is the axe that I need to sharpen as a ministry leader? Because dull axes exhaust people. They exhaust people. So start listening to the people around you, the Jethros, and invite Jethros into your life. Invite people to give you advice. Say, I want you to look at my ministry. I want you to look at my life. What do you see that could be done differently? What do you think I could be doing better? So, and I want to also encourage you to be a Jethro to somebody. Some of you know somebody in your life that they're just doing it all wrong, and you're afraid to talk to them. Well, how are you going to help them if you're afraid to talk to them? You have a coworker who's struggling with ministry? Be the Jethro. Talk to them in love. Talk to them graciously. Talk to them one-on-one. Talk to them at the right time. But be a true friend and talk to them. So listen to outside objective opinions. Here's the second one. Everything shouldn't revolve around you. Would you say that with me? Everything shouldn't revolve around you. Look at Exodus 18:15. What was Moses' reply to his father-in-law? Well, because the people come to me to inquire God. Whenever they have a dispute, it comes to me, and I make a decision between one man and another. I teach them God's statutes and laws. We got to have ears to hear. Moses doesn't want to hear. He doesn't want to listen. And he gets a little bit defensive here. He sees nothing wrong with what he's doing. He thinks he's right. He's doing the best that he can. And listen, those in leadership positions we typically don't like to be corrected. We typically don't like to be told there's a better way to do it because we're the leader. And we know what is best. And we don't like to admit there's a better idea. May I remind myself and all of us of Proverbs 12:15. A fool's way is right in his own eyes, but whoever listens to counsel is wise. Man, I don't want to be a fool. And that doesn't mean every single bit of counsel you get is wisdom. That we know that's not true. But there are times we need to listen to wise counsel. Now think about Moses and his father-in-law Jethro. Jethro's just visiting him. He's an older man. Think about Moses here. His response could be something like this, and maybe he's thinking this. Who is this old guy to tell me how to do this? What does he know about leadership? Maybe he's just being cranky. He should be minding his own business. I'm Moses, leader extraordinaire. Maybe you've heard of me. I've guided 2 million people out of Egypt. I'm the one God talks to face. Listen, I don't need you talking to me. God can talk to me. And he's telling them right now through somebody else. So for me and for you, over the next few days here at ELF, God is going to talk to us. I'm going to sessions just like you are. I'm not just teaching. I've signed up for a bunch of things. I want to make sure I have ears to hear. I know there's things God wants me to learn. And so I want to pray for you the same thing I pray for myself. God, help me to have ears to hear. Help my heart be ready to receive what you have. And come into these sessions, myself included, with humble hearts. Not critical, not thinking, Lord, speak. Would you speak through your servants all week long? Speak. Have ears to hear. And I want you to notice something else. Don't blame. Moses all of a sudden starts blaming other people. Look what happens here, and justifying himself in verse 15. Jethro has come to him. Moses' response, well, because it's the people, they come to inquire of God. Just because a lot of people think you should do it that way doesn't mean you should do it that way. Good leaders don't make decisions based on what's popular, but based on what is right and best. I want to say that again. Good leaders don't make decisions based on what's popular. They make decisions based on what's right and best. And good leaders don't make decisions based on pressure. They don't make it based on the pressure, but based on what's right and wrong. And so quit worrying about what other people think and do what God wants you to do. And then not only does he blame the people, look at this, he justifies himself in verse 15 and 16. Because the people come to me. Whenever they have a dispute, it comes to me. They come to me because I'm the best, because I'm most qualified, because I'm most knowledgeable, because I'm most experienced, because the people rely on me. All of a sudden, cue the spotlight on Moses. It's all me, God. It's all me. I need to remind myself, and you need to remind yourself, it's not about us. It is not about us. God doesn't need me. God does not need you. It was Charles Wesley, leader of the Methodist movement, wrote over 6,500 hymns, lived in the 1700s, who said this: God buries his workmen but carries on his work. The work of God is not going to stop when I'm dead and gone. The work of God is not going to stop when you're dead and gone. A key leader in God's kingdom, Tim Keller. Anybody familiar with Tim Keller? Just passed away yesterday. The work of God's not going to stop. It's going to keep on going. By the way, God buries Moses. God buries Moses not too long from now. God is going to bury me. He's going to bury you. There's a lot of tombs across Europe of religious leaders. God's work hasn't stopped. Moses doesn't have ears to hear. Here's another problem. There's too many I's and me's and not enough us's and we's. All of a sudden we have me, I. This is Beethoven's fifth becomes Moses' first. Me. That's what Moses is saying. It's all me. I want you to notice what his focus is. People come to me, comes to me. I make decision, I teach. Moses is the man. Everything is revolving around Moses. Everything comes to Moses. Everything goes through Moses. Everything is decided by Moses. Major problem in churches and ministries today is everything revolving around us. If everything revolves around you in your ministry, you are the problem. Everything was revolving around Moses. He was the problem. We need to invite more people into our ministries. We need to invite more people into our organizations. We need more people, not less people. Too many I's and me's and not enough us's and we's. Pronouns are a big deal today, okay? What pronouns characterize your ministry? What pronouns characterize your marriage? What pronouns characterize your life? When you talk about your church, is it always me, I, or is it us, we? See, don't be this guy. You've heard of a guy who's a one-man band? That's a one-man band. And look how silly he looks. Do you know how many pastors look just like that in churches? They do it all, decide it all, control it all, micromanage it all, perfectionists. Do you know how many people in parachurch ministries look like that? They got to do it all, be in charge of it all. Man, it's just not healthy is what it is. I'm still learning in this area. I'm still growing. I'm a lead pastor, a senior pastor, but I want you to understand, I don't baptize everybody in our church. I don't. I don't lead our staff meetings in our church. I don't lead our elder meetings, our oversight team meetings. I have different guys on our elder board, laymen who do that. I don't make all the visits. I don't officiate all the funerals. I don't even officiate all the weddings. I don't teach the new members class. I trust the people around me to do these things. I don't pick the curriculum for the youth stuff. I don't pick the worship songs for Sunday morning. The man in charge of worship does that. I don't update our website. You guys who are here in charge, thank you. Let's hear for these guys serving, the cameraman and everybody. I don't have a clue about technology. I don't know how to work any of this. I'm just so glad it does. Richard, thanks for getting all this working. So just invite people around you to be part of the process. I mean, I would flounder if it was all up to me. Absolutely. Every church needs people around you sharing the responsibility. And if I tried to do everything, I would hold the church where I serve back, okay? And some of us may be holding our ministries back because we have too much control. John Maxwell, a leadership guy, calls it the law of the lid. Too many pastors are lids. Too many ministry leaders are lids on their churches or on their ministries. They stop it from growing. Don't be the lid on the ministry. Again, 10 absolutely essential lessons to rise to the next level of leadership or help for those overwhelmed in ministry. Here's number 3. There's always room for improvement. Okay, we've got to learn this. Exodus 18, 17 through 18. Read along with me. His father-in-law says, "What you're doing is not good." Moses' father-in-law said to him, "You will certainly wear out both yourself and these people who are with you because the task is too heavy for you." So what we've got to do is distinguish between what is and is not good. What do you mean not good? What Moses is doing is very good. He's serving the people. I'm helping people. I'm helping a lot of people. How can you say this is not good? It's not what you're doing is not good. The way you're doing it is not good. You need a system in place. You need a process of service. Everything revolving around you is not good. The attitude behind your service, everything depending on you, is not good. You've got to be willing to change. You've got to be willing to improve. And maybe that means for some of us, improving how we study. We've got to do better at managing our time when it comes to studying for ministry. For others, we need to improve how we lead meetings. We're leading meetings so inefficiently, and there's rabbit trails everywhere, and we're not organized, and they go twice as long as we said they were going to go. Maybe it's for some of us how we handle caring for people or communicating to people or assimilating new people into our ministries or churches. Or for some of us, we need to improve how we recruit people, how we train people, how we disciple people. There's always room for improvement. None of us have arrived as a leader. We need to continue to grow and improve. We need to be willing to change, improve, and try something new. Again, I shared earlier, I've been a pastor for 28 years. Man, am I glad COVID's over. Anybody else? So tired of that. During COVID, a lot changed for ministry, for all of us and for myself. And some of it was really good for these changes. I remember there were 3 young guys in the church who came to me, Andrew, Eric, and Nathaniel, all in the area of tech and in the area of worship. And they set up a meeting with me. And they wanted to talk to me about my preaching. Oh, that's the last thing you want. These young guys want to talk to me about my preaching? And they were like, well, we feel like you can do better. We feel like there's changes you can make because we're going online and we need to tighten things up and we need to record the message a day earlier. You mean I need to be prepared a whole day earlier? And yes, and you've got to have the notes sooner and everything. And okay, so after remaining quiet, after listening to them, I'm the expert preacher. I've preached longer than they've been alive, okay? I have a system that has worked very comfortably for me. I don't want to change. I mean, I'm the senior pastor at this church, and this is what I did. I looked at all of them, and these were the exact words I said. Okay, I will submit to your leadership. And I did. And it was the best thing I could have done because what they said was true and the things that I could improve because it was so different with COVID and going online and everything else. And now I'm looking at the camera and I'm preaching off of a monitor now and I use a table instead of what do you call this thing? Pulpit, and I've learned the importance of tighter transitions and just all kind. What I'm saying is this, just be willing to change. Be willing to improve. Be willing to try something new. You've heard the saying, maybe you've heard the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. How many of you heard that? Can't teach an old, here's the good news, you're not a dog. You're not a dog. You can change no matter what age you are. You can try something new. Get out of your comfort zone, be willing to listen to somebody and try something new. And hey, what if it doesn't work? It doesn't work. Go back and change it the other way. But at least be willing to try it. So if someone comes to you and says, pastor or leader or whatever your position is, and says, could we try something new? Think through it. Maybe it's not the right thing to do, but maybe it is. And say, let's try it for 3 months. Let's try it for 2 weeks. Let's try it for 1 week. We'll try it. We'll see how it goes, okay? I've got a young worship pastor who leads with me. He's always wanting to try things new. It drives me crazy. But you know what? Most of the time I say, okay, let's try it. Let's give it a try. And most of the time it works, to be honest with you. Here's the next thing. Understand the consequences. They're not good for you or others. Look at verse 18. You'll certainly wear out both yourself and these people who are with you because the task is too heavy for you. You're going to wear out. Old pair of running shoes. You may have an old pair of running shoes that still look like new. But you know what? The sole of those things is worn out. They're so old. You've run in them or walked in them so long. And they may look fine, but there's too many miles. And when you have too many miles on an old pair of running shoes or walking shoes, that's when injuries can occur. And some of us have a lot of miles on the way we've been doing things. And there's going to be injuries that occur in ministry if we're not careful. People wear out. That's what it says here. You're going to wear out and the people with you. Why? Because they're tired of waiting around all day, Moses. They're tired of not being cared for, Moses. They're tired of not receiving the help they desperately need right now, Moses. People will tire of you as a leader if you're inefficient. People will tire of you because you are not doing things the best way possible. Be careful. Be careful people don't tire of you as a leader. And it's too heavy. You're certainly going to wear out, he says, because the task is too heavy for you. You ever seen somebody bench pressing weights in a gym? And they get it up and all of a sudden they get stuck and they can't get it up. They need a spotter. They need a spotter to lift it up. You know, in America, 6 people die on average every year from bench pressing because they didn't have a spotter. I don't know what it is in Europe. Man, we need spotters. We need supporters is what we need. Somebody there. It's an absolute essential lesson in leadership. Rising so we don't sink. Here's the next one. Stop trying to do it all alone. Verse 18, the task is too heavy for you. You can't do it alone. Be honest. Be honest, Moses. Swallow your pride. And Moses needed to swallow his pride. How much more Scott Poling? I'm no Moses, and neither are you. There are times we just need to swallow our pride because the weight of ministry is too heavy. And be humble. You can't do it alone. Depend on God. You know, John 15:5. You can do nothing without me, said Jesus. You need to remain in me. You need to abide in me. Your walk with me needs to be so close. You can't do anything without me, said Jesus. It takes more than just being a great player. Think about Moses. I mean, he's a great player, but Moses needed a team. He needed a team. Robert Lewandowski. Any Polish people here? Any Poles in here? You guys know that name. Robert Lewandowski is a great player. National Polish football team, plays for Barcelona now. Polish Footballer of the Year 9 times. Top scorer in 6 seasons in his league. Best FIFA Men's Player 2020 and 2021. European Golden Shoe 2021, 2022. I mean, his list of accomplishments goes on and on. He's a great player. He'd lose every game without a team. As a matter of fact, this is a quote of his. Football, America's soccer. Football is the most popular sport in the world, but it's not an individual sport. It's a team sport. I know I can only win with my team. You who are ministry leaders, do you know that? You can only win with your team. By the way, I can only win with the team that is here. Janet, right? Donna, Richard, Andre, Adrian. I can only win with a team. We're part of a team here. You can only win with your team. Please understand that. It doesn't matter how gifted you are in any area. You need the team around you. It doesn't matter how great a preacher you are, how great a teacher you are, how great a worship leader you are, how great an evangelist, an administrator. Without a team, you are going to lose and sink in ministry. And here's the sad truth. Many ministry leaders don't appreciate their team. And maybe you're a part of a church or part of an organization you feel like that. You're not the lead person, and you don't feel appreciated. That's hard. So appreciate the people around you and thank God for them, whether they're deacons or volunteers or whoever they are. And here's another sad truth, is some pastors and ministry leaders honestly don't want a team. They want to be in charge of everything and call the shots on everything. They don't want to give up control, be willing to give up control. Moses was a great player. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, Moses was a 10. 10 plagues freed the Israelites out of Egypt. 10 commandments he received on Mount Sinai from God. I mean, this guy's a 10. But Moses was a bad teammate. He could lead 2 million people out of Egypt, and he still didn't understand best practices as a leader. Think about that. If Moses needed to improve, guess who else needs to improve? Me and you. We need to improve. And let's learn how to be better pastors, better leaders, better men, better women in ministry. Here's a good reminder, Ecclesiastes 4. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their effort. For if either falls, his companion can lift him up. But pity the one who falls without another to lift him up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they can keep warm, but how can one person alone keep warm? And if someone overpowers one person, 2 can resist him. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. More strands, more strength. More strands, more strength. Who are the people you need more strands with as you serve the Lord? More strands, more strength.